Greetings everyone, and welcome to my studio. I'm Rita. I'm a textile artist, and I wanted to share with you a work that's already in progress. And here I'm adding some leaves to the piece that I've already showed you at the beginning. I considered possibly adding some fruit or some other elements to this piece. Here I've cut out some leaves and added like a central vein using some specialty yarn that you can see right there on the pillow that I'm working on. And I wanted this to be a little bit funky and interesting. And I may wind up adding more things as I go along. So what I'm doing in this shot is I'm adding now some additional veins, and I'm taking my scissor and actually trying to get it underneath that center vein, which has already been couched down. And I'm using different colors for the veins to make it a little bit more interesting. Here I'm basting it down just roughly. I could try to work with pins, but they really do get in your way after a while and can be a little bit uncomfortable if you start getting stuck with them, which, you know, when I have a lot of pins going, I'm inevitably going to get stuck. So yeah, just a rough basting here, and you'll see that in a minute. So now I have all four of the veins of the leaf on, and now I'm using embroidery thread, and I'm going to begin to couch down these individual four veins. I like to work on a pillow because I can pin the piece I'm working on to the pillow, which gives me some leverage. I don't have to hold on to everything at once. I can let the pillow help me with that. And also it's a handy place to stick your needle when you're not using it. Couching is a great stitch because it allows you to adhere to the surface of the piece that you're working on. You're appliquing the item on, but it can be, you could literally be couching down a piece of wire, and I've done that. Where how could you possibly sew on a piece of wire to your fabric piece? But that couching allows you to do things like that, where you can add interesting things to the surface of your work. And I'm just using regular embroidery thread here. I think I'm using 2-strand. I like to use a very sharp embroidery needle with a fairly large eye. to accommodate, some of the weird threads I use. I don't know why I left the specialty yarn sitting there on the pillow, but I guess it's a good thing that you can see it. This is a variegated yarn, and it becomes thin in some places. It becomes a little bit fatter in other places, and that's exactly what I like about it. It's got a lot of character, and the color is variegated. It ranges from like a light green all the way through to blue, and then all the way through to purple. So it's really gorgeous. There's another material that's mixed in there that I like to use. It's almost like a flat ribbon, and that's included in there as well. It just gives more interesting character. Here I have taken the pieces I've already made. I removed the basting, and then I ironed down about 1/4 of an inch going all the way around each leaf, just to make the applique work a little bit easier. Here I will be doing some pinning to hold them in place, since I have this on the floor, and just repositioning the leaves a little bit. And then I will begin pinning them in place. Once I have these in place and I'm happy with it, I will quickly baste around each leaf. Again, just in order to be able to get the pins out of my way. And here you can see me doing some of that basting. You may be wondering, since I've already made, like this is already in quilt form and there are already 3 layers here, how I could be working just from the top without actually working from the back. I can feel, I'm being very careful not to stitch all the way down. I can feel how deep I'm taking this thread, and I'm trying to be careful not to go any deeper than the very top layer of the batting. I mean, for basting it doesn't really matter, I could go all the way through, but I am just accustoming my hand to working a certain depth, so that when I come back with the embroidery thread for the final stitching, which by the way is going to be a blanket stitch, some people call it an edge stitch, which I'll be doing with green embroidery thread, then my hand is already accustomed and practiced to only going down the correct depth. Here is the blanket stitch that I've already started on the first leaf, and I'm actually putting a lot of stitches in. I'm working pretty closely. And again, it's an applique going down into the top layer of the quilt, the finished quilt. You may have noticed that the stitching on the quilt itself is like a large running stitch, which you could call it a borrow stitch. It's just a large running stitch that I used different colored embroidery threads on. There's a certain whimsical character I was going for in this piece, and because everything in this has been hand stitched on, including all the quilt pieces that are underneath this applique work, The entire quilt was done by hand here. I just haven't made up my mind completely what else I want to add to this piece. I think I may be thinking about adding some flowers to these leaves here, coming up through the middle of the leaves, or it may be some kind of a fruit. So this really could be like part one of this, and there may be another follow-up video to this to show you what else I decided to add. I'm also considering maybe doing some work with mushrooms on this, because I just love adding mushrooms to my textile pieces. And like the more I learn about mushrooms and the plant world in general, the more amazing and weird it is. Plants are doing so much more than we ever dreamed they were capable of doing, and as weird as leaves and plants are, fungi, of which mushrooms is one part, are even stranger, even weirder. So new stuff is being discovered about these living organisms all the time. So I love them. I love to cook with them. And I love to add them to my textile pieces. And in the future, I would like to share more of my textile pieces with you. And there are two most recent ones that I had in an exhibition. I'd like to feature those, or at least one at a time in each video, to show you how I like to work and what interests me in this kind of textile work. I don't want to feel bound by the traditional rules of embroidery. I like to let it get as funky as it wants to get, and I sort of let the piece dictate to me where I'm going. I like the freedom of that. I did spend a bit of time showing you the technique for this blanket stitch, because I think it's kind of important to do it carefully when you're going around the edge, so as to make sure to enclose the edge completely, and it secures it, not taking too much from the background piece, which is the quilt top, but just adhering it right to it. It does take a lot of thread, I grant you that, but I think it's worth it, and I think it really creates an elegant edge when you do it pretty close together like this. There's something very peaceful and meditative about sewing, and for me, it's a very, very relaxing usage of my time. I find it. I find that it allows me to forget almost everything, and really just immerse myself in the work, and just the movement of your hands, the movement of the needle, the manipulation of the thread, I find just really relaxing. So I think I made 10 leaves, and I'm not going to have you watch me do all 10 of these. It is time consuming. But I did want to show you at least most of just one, so you have a sense of what's involved here. The stitches are small, that's why it is taking a bit of time. I wanted them to be done well. I did go through quite a bit of thread in completing these 10 leaves, which I don't mind at all. I may even add some more embellishments to the leaves themselves before I even get to any flowers or a fruit. I'm still considering what else I could add to the leaves. Trying to keep all this in the camera and in the focus of the camera and fairly close to the camera so you can see the actual stitching. I used a lot of batiks in the formation of the quilt top before I started to applique on my vines and leaves. One thing about batik is, you know, they're beautiful, but when you're doing hand stitching, some of them are a little bit stiff, and I found that after working the entire quilt top, my hands were hurting. And of course I do use a thimble when I need it, but my hands were still hurting. They are beautiful to look at, but better for machine stitching, I think. I've done quite a lot of quilts and textile pieces completely by hand. I don't consider myself a quilt maker. I mean, I've made plenty of quilts, but I don't call myself a quilt maker. I know how to quilt. I know the techniques, but I really more consider myself a textile artist who sometimes uses quilts and quilt making in my pieces. I'll bet that I'm not the only person who does that. And I would love to hear what your experiences have been with textile art and how you've maybe used quilting techniques yourself. I'm always happy to learn new techniques. Something in me likes a sculptural form, so, you know, so here I'm making these bulky, you know, leaves that are practically standing up on the quilt top surface here, but I really like that. I really like the three-dimensionality of it, and that's why I'm kind of considering adding maybe some fruits or something. because I am working on the surface of this piece and not going to the back, which is a finished quilt back, I'm basically using like 3 or 4 running stitches together. Instead of forming a traditional knot, I'm going underneath and putting several small stitches together, which are impossible to pull out. And then so it does the work of a knot, and then just clipping close to the edge. Here you will see where I have finished sewing around all the leaves now, and just coming in for a close-up here so that you can see how they came out. I like the fact that the veins of the leaves are different colors and different textures. I really like that. So, you know, I added the vine originally, and that sat on there for a couple of weeks until I could figure out what I wanted to do with the leaves. So, bye till next time.